Good day, everyone. I am Eduardo N. Banjolo Jr., and our group is tasked to discuss to you the problems of education in the Philippines. First, we have quality and excellence. Second, relevance and responsiveness. Third, access and equity. Fourth, efficiency and effectiveness. Issues regarding the educational system when it comes to influence the educational system of the Philippines has been affected immensely by the country's colonial history, including the Spanish period, American period, and Japanese rule and occupation. Although having been significantly influenced by all its colonizers with regard to the educational system, the most influential and deep-rooted contributions arose during the American occupation. It was during this aforementioned period English was introduced as the primary language of instruction, and public education system was first established, a system specifically patterned after United States school system and further administered by the newly established Department of Instruction. Similar to the United States of America, the Philippines has had an extensive and extremely inclusive system of education, including features such as higher education. However, though the Philippine educational system has extensively been a model for other Southeast Asian countries in recent years, such as a matter has no longer stood through, and such a system has been deteriorated. Such as fact is especially evident that true in the country's more secluded poverty-stricken regions nationwide, the Philippines faces several issues when it comes to the educational system. The first issue or problem that I'll be discussing is the quality and excellence. So this is my topic. So decline in the quality of Philippine education at elementary and secondary levels. Reality check, results of NOT among elementary and high school students and NCAE were way below the target mean score. 2004 high school readiness test, 0.64% scored 75 or better, or 8,000 students out of 1.2 million examinees passed. Another reality check, self-assessment test for English, 19% scored 75 or better, or 10,000 out of 51,000 teachers. Decline in quality of education in the Philippines, trends in International Mathematics and Science Study or TIMMS as of year 2003. For math, Philippines ranked number 43 out of 46 countries. For science, Philippines ranked number 42. Another reality check, the results of the 2014 National Achievement Test or NOT and the National Career Assessment Examination or NCAE show that there had been a drop in the status of primary and secondary education. Data on students that have missed school due to COVID-19. Of the world's students population, 89% or 1.52 billion are the children and youth out of school due to COVID-19 closures. In the Philippines, close to 4 million students were not able to enroll for this school year as per the DepEd. With this, the number of out-of-school youth or OSY continues to grow, making it is a serious issue needing to be checked to avoid worse problems in the long run. Crisis in Philippine education, how is it really? A 2018 study found that a sample number of 15-year-old Filipino students ranked last in reading comprehension out of 79 countries. They also ranked 78 in science and math. One key insight from this study is it implies those tested mostly came from public schools. Hence, the crisis also lies in the fact that a lot of Filipinos can't read or do simple math. Another we have here. Indeed, it's clear that there is a class divide between rich and poor students in the country. Though this is the case, less developed states can focus on learning if it's covered in their top concerns. However, the Philippines doesn't invest on top-notch learning as compared to its neighboring countries. In fact, many public schools lack computers and tools despite the digital age. Further, a shortfall in the number of public school teachers is also one of the top issues in the country due to their being among the lowest paid state workers. Aside from that, more than 3 million children, youth, and adults remain unenrolled since the school shut down. The education system in the Philippines. Due to COVID-19, education issues in the Philippines have increased and received new challenges that worsen the current state of the country. With the sudden events brought about by the health crisis, distance learning modes via the internet or TV broadcasts were ordered. Further, a blended learning program was launched in October 2020, which involves online classes, printouts, and lessons broadcast on TV and social platforms. Thus, the new learning pathways rely on students and teachers having access to the internet. This yet brings another issue in the current system. Millions of Filipinos don't have access to computers and other digital tools at home to make their blended learning worthwhile. Hence, the value of technology in learning affects many students. Parents and guardians' top concerns with this are: one more thing that can happen is that schools may not be able to impart the most basic skills needed. To add, the current status can affect how tertiary education aims to impart the respect for and duty to knowledge and critical outlook. Before, teachers handled 40 to 60 students. With the current online setup, the quality of learning can be compromised if the class reaches 70 to 80 students. Parents and guardians' top concern are still the following: money for mobile load, lack of gadgets, poor internet signal, students struggle to focus and learn online, parents' lack of knowledge of their kids' lesson. So for quality education, this quality education enables people to develop all of their attributes and skills to achieve their potential as human beings and member of society. Quality education is considered also a human right and a public good. Government and other public authorities should ensure that a quality education service is available freely to all citizens from early childhood to adulthood. It provides the foundation for equity in society. One of the most basic public services, it not only enlightens but also empowers citizens and enables them to contribute to the maximum extent possible to the social and economic development of the communities. So that would be my report, and thank you for listening.
Hello everyone, my name is Harty Barcibal and I will going to continue the problems of education in the Philippines, specifically the relevance and responsiveness. First, we must define the relevance and responsiveness of the term. According to Oxford Languages, relevance is the quality or state of being closely connected or appropriate. Responsiveness is the quality of reacting quickly and positively. So this raises the issue of what is a responsive and relevant approach. Culturally relevant teaching or responsive teaching is a pedagogy grounded in teachers displaying cultural competence, skills at teaching in a cross-cultural or multicultural settings. Teachers using this method skills at teaching in a cross-cultural or multicultural settings to his or her cultural context. Apart from quality, relevance is also a problem in Philippine education. Most of what children learn in school is not applicable in their daily lives. The curriculum is overloaded and does not accommodate regional and cultural differences, leading to a lack of focus and rote memorization. Language remains an issue. While the government has made an effort to indigenous knowledge through the use of Filipino as the medium of instruction, this is unsupported by qualified teachers and good teaching materials. Coupled with the deteriorating quality of English teaching, the situation has resulted in semi-lingualism and mediocrity. The old debate or whether to use local languages or English in school has also been resurrected in the light of challenges and presented by globalization. Although the Philippine education has extensively been a model for other Southeast Asian countries, in recent years such a matter has no longer stood true, and such a system has been deteriorated. Such a fact is especially evident and true in the other countries' more secluded, poverty-stricken regions. Nationwide, the Philippines faces several issues when it comes to the educational system. These are mismatch. There is a large mismatch between educational training and actual jobs. This tends to be a major issue at the tertiary level and is furthermore the cause of the continuation of a substantial amount of educated yet unemployed or underemployed people. According to Dean Salvador Bellarro Jr., the colonel-educated congressman representing ang Education Party List in the House of Representatives, the number of educated unemployed reaches around 600,000 per year. He refers to said condition as the educational gap. The literature points out this could be the result of a rational response to a dual labor market where one sector is important substituting and highly protected with low wages. Graduates may choose to wait it out until a job opportunity in a high-paying sector comes. To address this problem, it is suggested that the leaders in business should actively involved in higher education. A selective admission policy should be carried out, that is, mechanism should be installed to reduce enrollment in oversubscribed programs and promote enrollment in undersubscribed ones. Next is dropout rate or out-of-school youth. Franz Castro, Secretary of Alliance of Concerned Teachers or ACT, stated that there is a grave need to address the alarming numbers of out-of-school youth in the country. The Philippines overall has 1.4 million children who are out of school according to UNESCO's data, and is additionally the only ASEAN country that is included in the top 5 countries with the highest number of out-of-school youth. In 2012, the Department of Education showed the data of a 6.38% dropout rate in primary school and 7.82 dropout rate in secondary school. Castro further stated that the increasing number of out-of-school children is being caused by poverty. The price increases in prices of oil, electricity, rice, water, and other basic commodities are further pushing the poor into dire poverty. Subsequently, as more families become poorer, the number of students enrolled in public schools increases, especially in high school level. In 2013, the Department of Education estimated that There are 38,503 elementary schools alongside 7,470 high schools. Next is brain drain. Brain drain is a persistent problem evident in the educational system of the Philippines due to the modern phenomenon of globalization, with a number of overseas Filipino workers or OFWs who worked abroad at any time during the period April to September 2014 was estimated at 2.3 million. This ongoing emigration subsequently induced an unparalleled brain drain alongside grave economic implications. Additionally, Philippine society here is footing the bill for the education of millions who successively spend their more productive years abroad. Thus, the already poor education system of the Philippines indirectly subsidizes the opulent economies who host the OFWs. Lastly, the social divide. There exists a problematic and distinct social cleavage with regard to educational opportunities in the country. Most modern societies have encountered an equalizing effect on the subject of education. This aforementioned divide in the social system has made an education become part of the institutional mechanism that creates a division between the poor and the rich. So these are the issues and problem of education in the Philippines. To address these problems, we may need to know more about the relevant or the relevance and responsiveness when it comes to education. First, how to ensure the relevance and responsive of your learning as an educator. Here are a few tips for making learning engaging and personally relevant according to Willis Faith and Imordino Young. First, use suspense and keep it fresh. Second, make it student-directed. Third, connect it to their lives and what they already know. Fourth, provide utility value. And lastly, fifth, build relatedness. Next is to address what is responsive teaching. Responsive teaching is a way of thinking about teaching and learning. Responsive teaching in the differentiated classroom connects the learner and the content in meaningful, respectful, and effective ways. It is grounded in the teacher's understanding of and connection with each student. Next is, what does it mean to be culturally responsive? Cultural responsiveness requires individuals to be cultural competent. This competency is having an awareness of one's own cultural identity and views about difference and the ability to learn and build on the varying cultural and community norms of students and their families. So how do we encourage teachers to develop a culturally relevant and responsive curriculum for their learners? Before you can tap into a student's culture, you must first know them well. Learning about your students is the key to culturally responsive teaching. Encouraging ELLs or English language learners to read, write, and speak in their native language allows them to hold on their culture and bridges languages. Survey in the classroom environment. Lastly, how can you be culturally responsive? So these are the culturally responsive teaching strategies and examples that are very relevant to us educators. First, learn about your student. Second, interview students. Third, integrate relevant word problems. Fourth, Present new concepts by using student vocabulary. Fifth, bring in guest speakers. Sixth, deliver different forms of content through learning stations. Seventh, gamify lessons. And lastly, eighth, call on each student. And that's the end of my report. Thank you.
Good evening to Dr. Josephine Reyes and all to my co-teachers here in Thailand, also back in the Philippines. Access and equity. For years, equity of access in education has referred to the ability of all students to receive an education from qualified teachers in buildings that are safe and conducive to learning in a district with, with sufficient resources that are reasonably equal among other schools in the same states. What is the main legal basis on access and equity of education in the Philippines? So there are different legal bases that I will mention in pursuant to access and equity. First, the 1987 Constitution, Article 14, Sections 1 to 5. Section 1, the state shall protect and promote the right of all citizens to quality education at all levels and shall take appropriate steps to make such education accessible to all. 2. Section 2, the state shall establish, maintain, and support a complete, adequate, and integrated system of education relevant to the needs of the people and society. 2. Establish and maintains a system of free public education in the elementary and high school level, without limiting the natural rights of parents to rear their children. Elementary education is compulsory for all children of school age. 3. Establish and maintain a system of scholarship grants, student loan programs, subsidies, and other incentives which shall be available to deserving students in both public and private schools, especially to the underprivileged. 4. Encourage non-formal, informal, and endogenous learning system, as well as self-learning independent and out-of-school study programs, particularly those that respond to community needs. And 5. Provide adult, citizen, disabled, and out-of-school youth with training in civic, vocational, efficiency, and skill. Section 3. All educational institutions shall be include the study of Constitution as the part of the curricula. 2. They shall inculcate patriotism and nationalism, foster love of humanity, respect for human rights, appreciation of the role of national heroes in the historical development of the country. Teach the right and duties of citizenship. Strengthen ethical and spiritual values, develop moral characteristics and personal discipline, encourage critical and creative thinking, broaden scientific and technological knowledge, and promote efficiency. 3. At the option expressed in writing by the parents or guardians, religion shall be allowed to be taught to their children or wards in the public elementary and high school within the regular class hours by instruction designated or approved by the religious authorities of the religion to which the children or wards belong. Additional costs to the government. Section number 4. The state recognizes the complementary roles of the public and private institutions in the educational system and shall exercise reasonable supervision and regulation of all educational institutions. 2. Educational institutions other than those established by religious groups and mission boards shall be allowed solely by the citizen of the Philippines or corporation or association at least 60% of the capital of which is owned by such citizen. The Congress may, however, require increased Filipino equity participation in all educational institutions. Control and administration of educational institutions shall be vested in a citizen of the Philippines. No educational institution shall be established exclusively for aliens, and no group of aliens shall comprise more than one-third of enrollment in any school. The provision of this subsequent subsection shall not apply to schools established for foreign diplomatic personnel and their independence, and unless otherwise provided by law for other foreign temporary residents. Number three, all revenues and assets of non-stock, non-profit educational institutions used actually, directly, and exclusively for educational purposes shall be exempt from taxes and duties. Upon the, upon the dissolution or cessation of the corporate existence of such institutions, their assets shall be disposed of in the manner provided by law. Propriety educational institutions include those cooperatively owned, but likewise be entitled to such exemption subject to limitation provided by law, including restriction on dividends and provision for reimbursement, or subject subject to condition prescribed by law, while grant, endowments, donation, or contribution used actually directly and exclusively for educational purposes shall be exempt from tax. And section 5, the state shall take into account regional and sectoral needs and condition and shall encourage local planning in the development of educational policies and programs. Academic freedom shall be enjoyed in all institutions of higher learning. 3. Every citizen has a right to select a professional or course of study subject to fair, reasonable, and equitable admission and academic requirements. 4. The state shall enhance the right of teachers to professional advancement. Non-teaching academic and non-academic personnel shall enjoy the protection of the state. 5. The state shall assign the highest budgetary priority to education and ensure that teaching will attract and retain its rightful share of the best available talents through adequate remuneration and other means of job satisfaction and fulfillment. Another legal basis is the Batas Pambangsa Bilang 232, the Educational Act of 1982. This was an act providing for the establishment and maintenance of an integrated system of education. In accordance with Section 2, this act should apply to and govern both formal and non-formal systems in public and private school in all levels of the entire educational system. As provided by this act, the national development goals are as follows. 1. To achieve and maintain an accelerating rate of economic development and social progress. 2. To ensure the maximum participation of all people in the attainment and enjoyment of the benefits of such growth. And 3. To achieve the strengthened national unity and consciousness and preserve development and promote desirable cultural, moral, and spiritual values in changing world. It is also stated in section 3 that the state shall promote and the right of every individual to relevant quality education regardless of sex, age, creed, socioeconomic status, physical and mental condition, racial or ethnic origin, political or other affiliation. The state shall therefore promote and maintain equality of access to education as well as the benefits of educational by all its citizens. Rights of student in school, Section 9. The right to receive competent instruction, relevant quality education. 2. The right to freely choose their field of study, subject to the existing curricula and continue their course up to graduation except in cases of academic deficiency or violation of disciplinary regulation. The right to the school guidance and counseling services. 4. The right to access to his own school records and the confidentiality of it. 5. The right to issuance of official certificates, diploma, transcript of record, grades, transfer credential, and similar documents within 30 days from request. 6. The right to publish a student newspaper and invite resource person during symposia, assemblies, and other activities. 7. The right of free expression of opinions and suggestion and to effective channels of communication with appropriate academic and administrative bodies of the school or institution. 8. The right to form, establish, join, and participate in organizations and societies recognized by the school or to form, join, and maintain organizations and societies for purposes not contrary to law. 9. The right to be free from involuntary contribution except those by approved by their organization and societies. Another legal basis is Republic Act number 6655, known as the Free Public Secondary Education Act of 1988. It was approved on May 26, 1988 and provided for a free public secondary education to all qualified citizens and promote quality education at all levels. B. No tuition or other fees shall be collected except fees related to membership in the school community such ID, student organization, and publication. C. Non-payment of this shall not hinder a student from enrollment or graduation. D. Nationalization of all public secondary school, Section 7. And E. Student who fails in majority of his academic subject for 2 consecutive years could no longer avail of.
I am Juna Bulacao and I will continue to present the problems of education in the Philippines, particularly on the efficiency and effectiveness. Let's review the meaning of these two words. Efficiency is achieving the maximum productivity with minimum wasted effort or expense, while effectiveness is the degree to which something is successful in producing a desired result or success. The school system can be viewed as a production line, which has both input and output. And the starting materials are, of course, the resources. While the education outcomes comprise of the results. Considering the output and comparing this with what went in can provide a rough measure for efficiency. An efficient system is one that achieves so much even with quite limited resources. Let me give you a background of our report attempts to assess the efficiency of school systems worldwide by taking into account teacher salaries and pupil-to-teacher ratio as indicators of input and test scores and an international standardized test score as a gauge for the output. There were 5 groups in this study. So group 1 are what we call the elite performers. The fact that these countries score well in both the efficiency and quality aspects, they always consider a room for improvement. Group 2, efficient and effective. These countries are doing relatively well on both efficiency and producing high PISA, or Program for International Student Assessment scores. They are not in the elite benchmark countries, but they are close. Group 3 are more effective than efficient, overspending or bloated. These countries perform better in quality measures than in terms of efficiency. This may be because they can prioritize outcomes over cost. It may be because their system generates other outcomes that are not captured by PISA rankings. Or more simply, it may be because the system is over-resourced beyond a threshold required to drive quality increases. Group 4 are more efficient than effective. Underspending or underperforming, these countries by comparison are more efficient than educationally effective. This could be for the simple reason that have constraints which prevent their system from moving to the next level. Example, low salaries will prevent the teaching profession from being able to recruit highly skilled individuals. More interestingly, if extensive resources are already being deployed, it could be the case that underlying flaws exist in the education delivery model. The system has the potential to increase outputs for no additional inputs by making policy changes. And group 5, inefficient and ineffective. These systems are inefficient and at the same time do not produce comparatively good outcomes. The ultimate ambition is to occupy a space in the upper right quadrant, but progression either horizontally or vertically. In the first instance could be the catalyst to drive improvements in both dimensions. So where does the Philippines belong in the above study? Unfortunately, the Philippines is not included in the above study, but it is quite straightforward to determine where it belongs. The Philippines in its believed participation in international exams ranks similarly to Indonesia. How much does the Philippines invest in public education in terms of teacher salaries, school resources, and classroom sizes? Thus, the Philippines clearly belongs to the inefficient and ineffective group. And according to what I've read, effectiveness requires a minimum input. With classroom shortages, poor working conditions for teachers, and lack of resources, the Philippines have an unpleasant outcome from its school system. Basic education also suffer in terms of efficiency. The reason here is its focus on excellence and competition. There are elite schools that are very selective in its enrollment, and at the same time, these schools likewise attract efficient teachers. Hence, much of the resources which are already severely limited go to where these are less needed. The emphasis on excellence sacrifices equity. Students who need most in schools that require more resources are simply neglected and ignored. Such school system therefore takes pride in producing quite a few excellent alumni while leaving most of the population poorly educated. There is also a large proportion of mismatch between training and actual jobs. As discussed earlier, some colleges and universities, even for high school, encourage their faculty pool to be generalist. So the result, less effectiveness or low effectiveness. Some faculty members have lost their self-esteem since some of them were pushed to handle technical writing, general psychology, Filipino, and algebra at the same time. And some educators, in the name of conservatism and for the sake of convenience, prefer the old-style teaching paradigm. The problem of non-sustainability and non-continuity. Teachers, administrators, and publishers are all left in limbo whenever the DepEd come up with another totally different directive from what it's used to have in a rather very sudden interval. For example, the case of the grading system, time frame allotted to various subjects. And the last one, inequity. Resources are not channeled to where these are most needed. Schools serving poorer students tended to be more resource constrained than wealthier schools. For example, poorer students tended to go to high schools that had teachers with more limited knowledge of their subject areas. They also tended to go to schools with lower levels of discretionary funding and those that reported having implemented only a minimal amount of school-based management. So that is where I will end our report. Thank you.